Welcome to Work the Left Side. I'm joined this week by the one, the only, the master of the Open Challenge, Mr. Sean Only. Dude, we're good.
We're good. Sorry, I normally do these on the phone, but this time I'm doing it on a laptop. So I'm just making use of the fact that I've got like both hands free, and that, you know what I mean. I might do some of this. I don't know.
Idea. I want a little Chuppet show, like what was it? Well, I've just done a cat. There you go. Can't walk past. So, as I tweeted out earlier, a returning guest. Obviously, we've talked before. Known you for a long ass time. It's been a couple of years since you was last on the show. How's tricks, dude? You're still kicking people in the head and stomping them into the ground?
Yeah, probably a little bit less so than I was last time I was here. Thanks for having me back on, by the way. A pleasure as always, and I enjoyed last time, so I'm sure we'll have a good crack again today. I am very much still kicking people in the head and all of the things that go with that. But yeah, because I've sort of taken slightly more of a
mentor.
So slightly more of like a mentor teaching type role. More so than I was last time, so that's kind of overtaken a little bit the regular bookings and whatnot. So I'm still heavily involved in the wrestling business, but less so putting myself on shows and whatnot. But I'm still nowhere near retiring or anything like that. I just do a little bit less of the in-ring work. I do more of the sort of backstage and training work nowadays. So yeah, quite a lot's changed, to be fair, in the last couple of years.
Well, that kind of feeds me into, I was going to bring it up at some point. We'll go straight into it. Obviously, recently, I had the pleasure of talking to Supersonic, Sammy, Josh Galla, obviously your boys. Anybody who watched those episodes know they constantly referred to you and just being under your mentorship and learning at the temple, obviously, aka, for Wrestle Island. As I said, last time we spoke, man, you weren't doing that. So that's obviously something you kind of segued into since we last chatted.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're from that neck of the woods originally, so obviously it's kind of like a second home. How did that come about? Did Peter reach out to you? Was it just a natural progression?
Yeah. So going back to what you said, I think that last time we spoke, I was doing a little bit of training, a little bit of teaching here and there, but it was nothing particularly regular or particularly permanent, just doing the odd little bit and bat here and there. And then since then, Pete had the idea of starting up his own school in Birkenhead, which is where his company is based. And he was chatting to me about it. From the way he was talking to me initially, because obviously I live in Leeds, which is quite a way away. I'm from Birkenhead originally, as you attested to moments ago. But yeah, with me being based so far away, it seemed like we were just sort of chatting about the idea rather than the idea of me taking the classes, because a 2-hour round trip, is it a 4-hour round trip, 2 hour each way, isn't necessarily the most ideal thing for a head coach to be doing necessarily multiple times a week. But yeah, then the more we chatted about it, the more it just kind of seemed like a natural fit. And traveling is a big part of wrestling anyway. It's not like I'm not used to traveling all the time. So Pete elected to make me the head trainer at the school. And we have lots of other guest trainers coming in and whatnot. I'm just there on a Sunday or on Sundays, unless there's another big show happening, or unless there's a Wrestle Island show on the Sunday. But yeah, it's been fantastic. Over a year it's been going now. Maybe I'm underestimating it. Maybe it's closer to a year and a half. But yeah, it's around about there.
Yeah, we'll say between a year and 2 years. But yeah, obviously, so I know, the 4-hour travel. Obviously, when I was talking to Sammy, obviously he's based in Leeds as well. So I presume, you guys travel together a lot, there and back. And he was sort of saying, it's a 4-hour round trip. But, he won't change it for the world kind of thing. He's quite happy to travel 2 hours there and back to be taught by yourself. So there you go. That's a compliment straight off the bat.
He's a good lad, Sammy. Yeah, I'll get that out the way. Got that out the way now. Specifically the two that you mentioned there, Josh Galla and Supersonic Sammy Blue, who's another Josh. To give his shoot name. Just an absolute pleasure to train people like that, because people like that, like they're passionate and they're fun to be around, and like they really love wrestling and whatnot. But like they care about it and they work hard and they put the graft in and put the effort in. So it's just an absolute joy to be around people like that, and a joy to watch their development and sort of have a helping hand in that in some way. So yeah, great lads. I mean, the temple's full of great people and great trainees, and not just great lads, great like all sorts of people. But yeah, awesome stuff. Like I say, very rewarding. Not to be like too corny about it, but like super rewarding.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, dude. It's just like, it's one of those things, you get that natural vibe off of, you thoroughly enjoy doing it. I feel like I'm being really cliched every time, I post about an episode. I was like, I've just had the pleasure of chatting to this awesome person. It's like, I say that every week. So people actually believe me or not, or they just think I'm being generic or something. It's like, no, genuinely, everybody is awesome kind of thing. So, but the Temple you kind of had your first show recently, kind of like an in-house show.
Yeah, I was amazing. It was so it was so good. It's like, because I've got a pretty big investment in the whole thing. I've been training all the lads. Well, we got a couple of the members of the sort of regular Wrestle Island roster to be on the card against some of the trainee lads as well. So it was like a little bit of a mix there. But to be fair, even a lot of the Wrestle Island roster lads, they've been through the school like multiple times. So I've kind of had a hand in training, like basically everybody that was on the show, like more or less. So I had like big, not just like emotional investment in it, but just a general investment in it. And I was saying, like, leading up to it, it's weird. It's like I'm so hyped for every single match. I'm never this excited for any show, even like WrestleManias and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was. I felt like I was probably pretty stressed that week, to be honest, because I just wanted everyone to get the most out of it and everything to go amazingly well and whatnot. So it was kind of quite a lot of pressure. But yeah, it turned out fantastic. There's a big old crowd there. Everyone did amazing. I know, like, I'm not going to say anything different than that on a podcast. I mean, I'm not going to say like, oh, so and so was pretty shit, but everyone else was all right. But like, no, legit, like everybody was just like fantastic. Like there was no one that disappointed, as it were. Everyone like, yeah, amazing work. I don't know if any of them are watching, but well done, folks. I'm just going to put my specs on. I'm not doing a Clark Kent or anything. I'm just actually.
You need to get the S curl at the front, Christian.
Yeah. I just watched the first Superman, the Richard Donner, the 1978 first Superman, for probably the first time in about 15 years or something the other day on Blu-ray.
Wow.
It holds up. There's some bits that are super dated and some bits that kind of don't necessarily translate to like a 2024 audience or whatever, but it's still pretty cool. It's a cool movie. It's fun.
I'm just shocked that you watched a non-horror film. That's like
yeah.
First time we've ever talked about a film and it's not been a horror one.
Yeah, quite possibly.
It's a long-ass film as well. It's over 90 minutes, dude. So
yeah. Oh, to be fair, we didn't do it in one sitting. We did it in two sittings, like, so, yeah.
What I say, bloody hell.
Yeah, the attention span strikes again.
But yeah, Island guys, obviously, yeah, I can just only imagine, like, so obviously when you work a show, you're invested in your match. You can take enjoyment in other people's matches, but you're not invested in them. Obviously, in the Temple show, you would have been invested in every single match, in every single participant. You must have just been stood there, just like nervous, excited, proud, worried. Like, if something does go wrong, fuck, I've got to pick these guys back up afterwards. It's just, so yeah, good moment though. It sounds like, they did you good, and hopefully it becomes a regular thing. Just give those guys the experience.
Yeah, I believe like what the plan is going forward. I mean, they are trainee shows. They're Wrestle Island Temple shows where we have the trainees on, so there's no like sort of disputing that or whatever. But the way they're going to be presented going forward, from what I understand anyway, because there's a sort of wrestling, like a main roster Wrestle Island show every like 2 months, and so we're going to have a Temple trainee show in between. It's kind of going to be a little bit more like its own sort of storyline. So to give the cliched example, kind of like NXT and main roster sort of thing. So that I believe that's the plan going forward. So like there's a lot of potential things to come from it. We're going to be doing lots of storylines and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be boss. It's going to be boss.
It works out nicely then. So basically there'll be kind of an island show every month, just Wrestle or Temple alternative. So, and I'm very content, man. From what I've seen of the Wrestle Island community, I would call them, everybody's uber supportive. The fans there just absolutely dig, the promotion. So I can only imagine they'll be more than happy to, support it and turn up and, show some love.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's very much like a kind of community, family-friendly type atmosphere, type crowd, type people that go there and whatnot. There's a lot of like work that gets done for the communities and charity work and whatnot that Pete and Jody do, which is just amazing. So no, it's a really, really good, very I think wholesome. Wholesome is probably the operative term. A very wholesome wrestling company, a very wholesome community and whatnot. And because I'm a very wholesome guy myself, which hence my involvement in the training school. So a very wholesome training school and training shows, temple shows as well.
Yeah. A little bit there, Sean's really a wholesome kind of guy. He's not always the nasty bastard you see on, in the ring. He has wholesome moments.
Yeah. Well, this is all OOC out of character in it. You know what I mean? So this is all non-kayfabe, as it were.
So, well, let's take a switch. Let's kick into the Sean only gear in regards to obviously, the show's sponsored by, we sponsor True Grit. I've got to bring up the Open Challenge. Dude, I was genuinely shocked. The last True Grit show, man. I didn't see that happening, and I was just JC's obviously kind of mentioned something. It was a bit hit and miss whether it was going to happen, whether it wasn't going to happen. Certain plans, and some Mexican dude turned up in a mask and nicked you $5,000.
Unbelievable. The least Mexican human being I've ever seen in my life. Like I said, this is all OOC. This is all out of character. So we're not gonna go into any like pretending that we don't know what the crack is. But it's been so good. Like I don't want to. I mean, it's not so much patting myself on the back because there's been like a lot of people involved, but like I don't want to put too much self praise or whatever. But like it's been we've put a lot of work and a lot of effort into telling this story over the last like year plus. I think it's one of those things where people might not even realize how much storytelling is going into it. All these like open challenges over and over, and the involvement of certain people and then certain people being brought back and whatnot, potentially under masks or who knows? Question mark. But yeah, like I said, it's been like a really, really long, involved storyline, and this is kind of just the first chapter of it as well. So obviously, I'm not going to give anything away as to what's coming up. But you can see how things have developed, and you can kind of have an idea of like where things could be going from here, as it were. And this is what I love about pro wrestling, telling stories. Don't get me wrong, I love performing in the ring and matches and all that kind of stuff. But as far as I'm concerned, performing in the ring and doing matches and all that should be telling stories anyway. So yeah, this is right. This is right, like my wheelhouse. This is exactly where I like being. You know what I mean?
It's the moments versus spots discussion.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
It's more than you remember spots in a match kind of thing. So that was a moment. Massive shout out to Joel Cobra as well. I popped huge a couple of shows back when he came out as your opponent.
Yeah.
That was a great thing about the Open Challenge. You get the option or the possibility for people to come in that haven't been there before. They get to be in the ring for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, do their stuff. And it just gets eyes on them as well, kind of thing, not just yourself.
Yeah, that's literally been the whole idea behind it. Just trying to give a helping hand. Like it's like I say, I'm not close to retiring. Like I've got a lot of shows coming up this year. I'm going to lots of different places, and I've got a lot of exciting, interesting things coming in terms of like my own in-ring career, which is still very, very much ongoing. But like that my focus is on trying to bring the next generation up and trying to help and trying to get people to know how to do things the right way and like how to learn properly and all that kind of stuff. So the whole rationale behind all these open challenges was really just to get exposure for people, to get experience for people, to get the name out there, to get the foot in the door, to get contacts, all that kind of good stuff. Which again, obviously, it sometimes gets a little bit lost in translation because I'm such an evil, nasty little heel character. And like I say, there's so much of it that is part of the bigger overarching storyline. But yeah, we've managed to get a lot of opportunities to people that wouldn't necessarily have been getting those opportunities. If you get what I'm saying.
I like Joey Cement as well. You know,
He's a great lad. He's a great lad.
Yeah, that's it. Cutting a promo, absolutely just blowing up True Grit's socials for a couple of days with that promo, that interview. So yeah, kudos obviously for your part you've played in in it really. So, but yes, the obviously for the True Grit fans that are listening or watching, there's the next part of the chapter will start on Saturday.
Yeah, potentially. Well, who knows? Who knows?
Well, we'll see what happens in the Rumble as well. It's a Rumble, anything could happen as well. So that could throw a spanner in the works.
Literally anything can happen. But yeah, again, sort of without breaching kayfabe barriers too much, and obviously taking into account that this is all out of character. Yeah, Billy O'Keefe. We've already shouted out the two Joshes, Sammy Blue and Josh Galla. I would be remiss if I didn't shout out Billy O'Keefe, particularly as we're now talking about the True Grit stuff. We always, from when me, I always refer to JC as Boris. He's always going to be Boris to me. So just for lack of confusion, if I do make reference to him, it's difficult for me to not say Boris. So I'll just continue with that. But when me and Boris sort of first started concocting this kind of storyline, obviously it needed a protagonist to be the one to get the money, basically, the one to ultimately be victorious. And that was the only sticking point. We weren't quite sure who we wanted it to be, who we wanted to push. And then Billy ended up being the very first open challenge. And that actually ended up being, I can't remember what happened now, but it was a last minute thing. It wasn't actually meant to be Billy on that first one. For whatever reason, like I said, I forget. It was that long ago. I forget now. But Billy ended up being like last minute replacement. And then as soon as we saw how much fire and how much life he brought to it, it was like, yeah, there you go. The problem solved now. There you go. So yeah, sorry, I peeled the curtain back a little bit too much there, didn't I? Oopsies.
In case anybody's forgotten or didn't know, obviously, yeah, that's kind of bookended the chapter one, basically. He was the first opponent. Some dude that's got his tattoos under a mask, was the guy that took the 5K off you. So as much as he's tried to cover it with the long sleeve thing, it's like there we go. So yeah, that to me is just I'll refer to him as Boris as well, just to save confusion. Everything about Boris and True Grit, the dude's got the storylines planned out for the next 12, 24 months kind of thing. Nothing's really done on the fly unless it has to be. There's a structure there. And that's another perfect example of right, okay, bosh.
Yeah, the great thing about working with Boris, and this is something that goes back sort of several years, because obviously, I mean that's the reason why I always refer to him as Boris, because Sean Only and Boris had a really long running feud. But obviously, when you're having a really long running feud with someone, generally it's because you're quite close friends. You know what I mean? But that's the great thing about working with Boris, because we kind of both grew up with the same era of wrestling, and we both kind of have the same, there's certain things we won't necessarily see completely eye to eye on in terms of every single little facet of every single little detail, but because we both have the same kind of ideas in terms of storylines and where we like things to go and how we like things to feel, because it's essentially early 90s wrestling was where we both fell in love with it, kind of thing. And I think that's both of our main reference point. So it tends to be that whenever he has an idea, it's like, oh yeah, that was what I was thinking. That was basically what I was going to suggest to you. The amount of times that I've texted him or messaged him being like, oh, how about we do X, Y, and Z on the next show, and how about such and such happens afterwards? And he's like, oh, I thought we'd already discussed it, because that was my idea. I'd not already told you. I'm like, nah, Boris, mate, this is just me shooting. Yeah, so it's always just an absolute breeze to plan all this stuff and to yeah.
Nice. Well, obviously then we've talked about the training there. Not to pull the curtain behind too much, but in the sense of
we've already done that. I think we're way beyond that point now.
I know you're heavily involved kind of in the I think Ellis talked about it anyway on his episode, in fairness. You kind of helped structure the shows with BlackHeart Wrestling. You're very heavily involved in the running of those shows.
No, not really. No, not massively. Because it's more a case of because James, the guy that runs it, he's an absolute sweetheart. Like he's genuinely one of my best mates. So he chats to me quite a lot, and like I do give him like a lot of advice and a lot of feedback. I suppose in that regard, yeah, you could argue that I have a hand in it in that regard, but it's not hands on. It's just yeah, it's just through me and James being pretty good friends. But because I'm such good friends with James, and because a lot of the guys that work at BlackHeart like train with me at GTM or at Wrestle Island, and like I have like a emotional investment in it. It's a nearby show with some people that are very near and dear to me. Yeah, I do give a lot of advice and feedback and whatnot here and there. So yeah, I suppose to some extent I do, but it's not necessarily like intentional or whatever. Yeah, I'm just sticking the oar in all the time and yeah, giving everyone my 2 cents, whether they want to hear it or not.
The dude's giving you a credit for story, being involved. So we'll take that as a good thing.
Yeah, Ellis is a legend as well. I love Ellis to bits. He's a good lad. Hi,
yeah.
Ellis.
Yeah, obviously we had him obviously, but that to me is like the perfect combination of you got your guys, X, Y, and Z. You're pulling some people in from Wrestle Island if you think they'll suit the show. There's some people coming in through Ellis, from Pursuit. You've kind of got this really good combination of talent, current but next generation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to put over because we've not really mentioned it yet. But I've got to put over the school in Bradford as well, GTM. It was actually changed its name to King. It was GTM, but it's now Kingdom Wrestling. But I think it's in that kind of transition period. Like everyone still refers to X as Twitter. No one knows what you're on about if you say X, or everyone just says Twitter or as formerly known as Twitter or whatever. I think that's the case with GTM for a little while. But yeah, the training school in Bradford is kind of gone from strength to strength, really. Like it started out as a very like small kind of community charity like type thing, but yeah, it's grown exponentially. The classes kind of got bigger than we anticipated, really. Because we have the ring set up. There is a ring there at GTM, but we only have it set up the weeks of shows, so we have it set up like every like 3 weeks or something like that, and we're just working on mats for the rest of the time. But then every now and then we'll get the ring set up and we'll do like a full wrestle week. Like we did that a little while ago, where we had in-ring training every single day for the entire week, which was a stressful week, but it was also a very fun and very rewarding week. And yeah, but like I said, there's a lot of really good guys coming out of GTM now. It's not. So can't think how to explain what I'm trying to say, but yeah,
it's building momentum.
There you go. Thank you. Momentum. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah. Cheers. Yeah. There we go. Sorry, it's been a long day, buddy. It's been a long day.
But yeah, I mean, shout out to them because obviously, there's a lot of schools. That's the thing is like I've had this conversation with so many people about, you never 30 minutes away from a good school nowadays kind of thing. And obviously we mentioned Temple, other ones that get mentioned. It's easy to overlook some of the newer ones that are still building that momentum. But once the talent comes out and starts getting booked, and obviously people learn where they trained, that's then the word of mouth. That's when that training school becomes acknowledged.
Yeah, because I think that when it started out, because there's not really many people that have got prior wrestling experience that were training there. There's one or two that have done a couple of little bits and bats, and there's a couple that came in like occasionally that have done the odd show. But for the most part, it was like entirely beginners. And when it's like entirely beginners, it's like it's almost impossible to see, who's going to come out of this as like as a wrestler, who's going to be like show ready, etc. etc. But yeah, like now we've been running for a little while, and now I've had like more in-ring sessions, and a lot of the GTM lot travel up to Birkenhead sometimes as well to train with me at Wrestle Island. So now they've all had a bit more time. There's like a good few of them that are like, it's time to start getting you on some shows and whatnot. Start getting you in front of some crowds and all that. So yeah,
that's it.
It's been great as well.
sort of obviously when you're coming out, certain schools it helps when the school is attached to a promotion, like Temple. They've kind of got that venue or that avenue of outlet for people to showcase. But somewhere like Kingdom, what's the idea to get these guys in front of? Do you just start putting word of mouth in? Do you start recommending them? Do you?
Oh, we've got like I say, we've got the GTM shows. There's usually at least one a month, and there's more sort of traveling ones as well. There's been ones in Leeds and up in the northeast, and there's a few locations. I'm not very good at remembering stuff like that. I'll not lie. But yeah, so there's that avenue, and we're like I say, we've got a couple of them on a couple of those GTM shows. And we had like a Rumble a little while back. We had a few of the trainees on there. Unfortunately, very, very, very sadly, on the last GTM show, we had TC Thorne, my good buddy Tim, making his professional debut. Well, very final move of the match. He took kind of like a face buster. I don't know exactly what the move is. Moves are moves, whatever. Some sort of face buster type move. Didn't take the bump properly and knocked his tooth out on his very first match. But he's back, raring to go now. He's got his teeth sorted. Or his tooth sorted. Yeah, and he's back. He's back, raring to go now. But yeah, like I say, so there's certainly that avenue.
Yeah. And
then obviously when I think people are kind of ready to be put out into the broader wrestling world, and I've got plenty of contacts and plenty of strings I can maybe pull at various places and whatnot.
That's it. Yeah, I'll definitely describe you as the guy somebody that knows people that knows people that knows people. You can, there's always somebody you can talk to about it. So, but yeah, obviously, GTM. So I didn't mean to besmirch by sort of. It's just obviously being in Leeds. There's that many promotions here now. It's judging the size of each one. It's kind of like, right, okay, just thinking like bigger, slightly wider audiences, getting them that exposure to being out in front of more people, kind of thing as well. So
yeah, I always think it's very important for trainees and young wrestlers to get experience of different crowds, because you have to be very aware that different crowds will expect different types of performances, different types of matches, and different types of interaction with the crowd and levels of interaction with the crowd, and all these kind of nuanced things. So if you're just working for the same promotion, week in, week out, or month in, month out, or whatever it is, you're only going to learn to work in front of one very specific type of crowd. So it's always good to get out to as many different places, and sort of beyond that, not just as many different places, but as many different places that specifically have different styles and cater to different types of people and whatnot. Like obviously, a camp show audience is totally different to like a North audience, or to give an example.
Right audience, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's many places like a Rise audience, in fairness, but there's but again,
I was just back at Rise on Friday for the first time in I don't know how long it's been. I'm a terrible judge of time, but I think it's been about a year and a half or 2 years or something since I was last at Rise, because I was pretty much a concrete member of the roster for like I don't know, like 5-6 years, pretty much the whole way through the Rise existence. But that's the thing. With that comes like how many times can you repeat the same tricks? I've turned heel, turned face, turned heel, turned face during that period. So I think it was just a case of like sort of run out of ideas for me or whatever. But yeah, no, I was back at the Rumble on Friday, which was nice. Very nice to see everybody, and very nice to be wrestling at the Brood now, which is one of my favourite places to wrestle ever.
I'm sure you've been there numerous times for gigs and stuff as well, not just for matches.
Yep.
So
played many gigs there as well, to be fair.
That's it. So yeah, I was going to bring up some stuff. I saw shout out to Jeebus. I kind of saw like a highlight reel of the Rumble, clocked you in the video, and I was like, nice. But just the amount of people there that actually were in the Rumble, talent wise, it just looked like a very good assortment of Rise and guys you wouldn't traditionally associate with Rise.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a good few surprises in there. It's nice to see Trent Seven. I wasn't expecting to see him. And yeah, like you say, the Destroyer, is that what it's called now? The Muscle Cat, Ross.
Yeah.
He's just an absolute sweetheart. It was so nice to see Ross. He's such a good dude.
So, yeah, true grit.
Again, not to kill the illusion of like the muscle cat, the destroyer, but like, because yeah, in the ring, absolutely terrifying. Outside of the ring, one of the nicest human beings to ever
I
lace the
think you
boots.
just find that, you know, the guys that don't need to be terrifying because they look like they look, people you'll meet on the earth. It's like,
Yeah.
I need to intimidate you because I know what I could do to you if I wanted to, so I'm just going to be nice. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, yeah, man. Well, we touched upon it before. We was talking like, you know, moments over spots kind of thing. So obviously now you've kind of doing the whole teaching thing. Is that something that you kind of find yourself, you know, trying to get into people's heads while you're training them? The importance of moments, the importance of storytelling, you know, trying to get them to understand how to work a match, really, I suppose.
Yeah, very, very much so. Like, obviously, there's a lot of things that go into wrestling, and a lot of things that go into teaching wrestling, and there's fitness and athleticism and body control and learning the moves, learning the spots, having the memory for it all, knowing what order to do things in, knowing how to work the crowd, knowing how to keep the crowd engaged. And this is just off the top of my head. There's 10. I could probably come up with another 20. You know what I mean? But I think that I want to be careful about what I say here, because I want to be absolutely definite that I'm not trying to besmirch any of the other trainers in the country by any means, because I'm not trying to say that I'm better than anybody, and I think that there's some fantastic schools out there, some fantastic trainers, but I do think that I do things slightly differently in terms of the way that I see wrestling is obviously going to affect the way that I teach wrestling, and like it's more based on, you know, like psychology and logic. And the main thing that I'm constantly hammering home in my classes, probably above everything else, is just the principle of making everything mean something. And there's no reason for us to ever do anything ever in a match or in a show or on a promo or anything if it doesn't mean something. Because I feel like there's far too much, far too much wasted spots, wasted movement, wasted. You know what I mean? And I think like with, okay, I'm not trying to say that I'm the be all and end all of experience, but I think with experience comes understanding of like what should be done and what needs to be done and what's necessary. And like I say, I think just like making sure everything means something and everything leads to something else. Yeah, I don't want to waffle about this too much, but I'm gonna digress ever so slightly, because like, and this is something I talk about in classes all the time. So anybody that's ever been to any of my classes is probably sitting there thinking like, oh, here we go, this again. But right, if you're watching a movie, yeah. Just for example, I'm talking about the Chekhov's gun theory, but just to put it in layman's terms, if you're watching a movie and someone coughs in conversation, we know what that means, don't we? That person's going to be ill at some point. We're going to find out that, like, you know, they're drastically ill, or they've got some awful thing wrong with them, or like they've got a heart disease, you know, whatever the fuck it is. If you're having a conversation with someone in real life, like right now, I've probably coughed about 4 or 5 times at least. No one thinks anything of it. I'm just clearing my throat. It doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? Because we're not in control of the narrative. This is just conversation. This isn't a story. This isn't like leading to anything. This is just us. You know what I mean? But in a movie, somebody coughs, it means something. Every single, like, obviously bad movies are bad movies, and you know you're going to get a lot of shit things that don't lead anywhere or don't mean anything in bad movies. That's not what I'm talking about. If a movie's done well, every single little bit of dialogue, every scene, it relays to something else. It leads on to something else. It means something, and it sets something up. You know what I mean? There's a bit of a lack of that in pro wrestling where there doesn't need to be. There's no reason for anything to ever happen in a match that doesn't tie into something else, mean something, lead to something, have some sort of emotional connection, have some sort of drive to it. You know what I mean? Because we're in control of every single moment that happens in a match. When I meet up with whoever it is, if I'm meeting up with, you know, Johnny Lightning, whatever, generic wrestler, that's the first wrestler name that came in my head. I'm meeting up with Johnny Lightning. We're having a match tonight. You know what I mean? The script is completely empty. There's nothing that says we have to do a run spot, we have to do whatever. Like, it makes sense that I'd do my finishing move on him, or it makes sense that he'd do his signature moves or whatever, but there's nothing in the script written whatsoever. We're completely in control of everything that happens. So why not make sure everything we do means something and has some sort of greater meaning, leads to something else? That you get what I'm saying? So this is probably a bit more waffle than you're anticipating, but yeah, that tends to be the main focal point of my class, because I think that is what is the biggest thing that's lacking in most wrestling at the moment. And that's not to disparage anybody. This isn't me having a dig or having a go or saying, oh, because so and so doesn't have enough logic, or these people don't teach psychology. That's not what I'm saying at all. Just I just have a slightly different approach, because I've been to a million schools, I've been to a million seminars, I've been to a million different classes and whatnot. Like, it would be remiss of me as a teacher if I didn't take every single little bit that I thought was good from every single one of those and incorporate that on some level, if you know what I mean. Which I do very much so. And also, certain things that I thought maybe that wasn't so great, or maybe that could have been done a little bit better, or maybe they shouldn't have done that. Like, being aware of that and ignoring that as well. But sort of, yeah, taking that into account, like I say, I just have a slightly different approach. Being aware of what other people's approaches are, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense, dude. You know me long enough. As soon as you mentioned, like, connecting it to like a movie idea, I'm hooked. I'm listening to you talking about films and plots and explaining, an arc. Basically, that's what it is. It's an arc of a story from start to finish, making sure the strings connect in the middle, that it makes sense. Then as a fan afterwards, you could be like, "Ah, shit! I remember that bit. I should have fucking known that was coming, because that bit there, it all meant something. It all connects." So,
and it's interesting what you say about an arc, because like anything could, like, you think of an arc of a story as being like someone turning heel on someone else, or like some conclusive thing happening, you know what I mean, like, or like a full match or whatever. But like this is literally just something I was talking about in class the other day. Well, let's say, right, I do a frog splash as my finish. So for that to occur, what's going to happen is I'm going to body slam the guy on the ground. I'm going to get to the top rope. But I'm going to take a little bit too much time getting there. He's going to be wise to it. He's going to run up to the top rope. He's going to catch me. He's going to start digging in, giving me some shots to the stomach. He's going to hook me up for a superplex. He's going to try and hit that superplex, but I'm going to grab on to the to the turnbuckle, so he doesn't get it. I start giving him some digs to the stomach. He releases the suplex position. I give him a shot. He's wobbly. I give him another shot. He's wobbly. I give him like a big headbutt or something like that, maybe like a big bell clap. He drops down to the ground. I jump off. Boom! I give him the frog splash. That's a story arc right there. That's. It's only a very minuscule portion of a match. Like, what's that? Maybe like 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe. But that's telling the story of how that whole thing has come about. You know what I mean? That in itself is just a miniature story arc. So any match could have many multiple mini story arcs, and one overarching one, or multiple overarching ones connecting two different ones or whatever. Yeah.
Instead of like a movie comparison would be to use like a TV series comparison. Like every sort of 30 seconds or 60 seconds within a match would be an episode of like a 12 episode series.
Yeah.
Individual little arcs, but obviously the main match itself is the series long story arc kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all storytelling, all of it, or it should be. It should be anyway.
Oh, so I just coughed. I'm just thinking of that. Oh no. Oh.
Okay, not in a movie, I promise.
But yeah, dude, that's the kind of thing we was talking about in regards to, just like I say, it's telling a story. You every match is a clean slate. You've got this blank canvas to work on. Go out and make some art kind of thing.
Yeah. It's a good way of looking at it. It's a good way of putting it, for sure.
But again, going
back to movies here, kid.
I've literally just, I don't know if you listened to it or where that reference is from, but that's obviously a Vince McMahonism. I kind of know it as a Vince. I've just been listening to something to wrestle with a lot recently. And yeah, Pritchard is always constantly saying that at the minute. I've had that drawn in my head. Apparently, like Dusty Rhodes used to say all the time as well. It's like, we're making movies. I'm not doing a wrestling match. I'm making a movie here.
Yeah,
so it's a very good way of looking at it.
Can I just say, you mentioned Bruce Pritchard just then. Another tangent. I was literally just thinking about this the other day. Bruce Pritchard was Brother Love, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was literally just thinking about this the other day because we were watching it was WrestleMania 5 with Brother Love and Roddy Piper confrontation. Has there ever been, honest to God, a more hateable heel in the history of, like, seriously, like that is one underrated fucking gimmick. Like, I cannot think of a more, like, immediately hate. Like, you could probably think of, like, some people that have done more dastardly things, or, you know what I mean, have gone on to more evil deeds, but just an immediately hateable prick. Mwah, French kiss, like, so good. Like, unbeatable. Unbeatable.
Everything. As soon as he opens his mouth, you're like,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boys, the orangeness,
Yes.
the fan.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, you're talking 92 wrestling. Obviously, me and Boris, we do we're going through 97 at the minute in episodes looking at 97 pay-per-views. That's, to me, we both deemed it as like godlike wrestling.
That's my all-time favorite. If you have to give a favorite calendar year, yeah. That's my favorite WWF or WE whatever year of all time. 100% for me personally, 100%.
Because of the moments, because of the stories. I mean, we're going back at the minute. We're watching some of the matches are just fucking awful, mate. But you just like some of the moments are just next level, and you remember them. And that's just a perfect example. I don't know, is it a perfect example? Because, like I say, some of the wrestling is very questionable. But it's kind of like, is wrestling that important? It's like, yeah, no, it is. We still want good wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't drill it into your students' head like, it don't matter about the matches as long as you have really good moments.
Yeah. There's absolutely a fine line, and I think that. Yeah, again, not to go into too much like crazy detail. I don't want to like have this be an 8-hour podcast of me just like teaching wrestling or whatever. But yeah, it's like I obviously I put over this whole storytelling and psychology and all that kind of thing, but conflate that also or like equate that also with the fact that if you're putting on an amazing spectacular match and you're also adhering to all these like laws about storytelling and psychology and all that, yeah, it's going to escalate, absolutely, like 100%. Because like you say, the things that you remember are the moments. It's Stone Cold and The Rock like glaring at each other. It's Roman Reigns doing I don't know what the fuck Roman Reigns does, but it's it's the moments rather than the moves. But it's not like there hasn't been some amazing spectacular moments from moves that we also like hold in amazingly high regard. And I think that for the most part, those amazing moments, they're isolated in terms of like Foley falling off the cell, or like fucking Edge spear on Hardy off the thing, or I don't know, like crazy high spots that we can picture in our mind's eye because we've seen the highlights of them a million times. And in that context, that isolated, we're just seeing that little 3-second soundbite or that 2-second clip or whatever it is. But I think the reason they become so indelibly etched in wrestling history and in pop culture and everything else is because like it wasn't just that moment; it was the build up to it that made that moment as well. You know what I mean? So we're seeing these isolated sound bites, but that's not really giving us the full picture, because something special generally needs to happen for them to become those iconic sound bites and moments.
You need emotional connection. You've got to have that emotion there for it to mean something. To get a pop out of somebody, they have to be emotionally invested.
Yeah.
The build.
So to go back to like what I was saying about the frog splash and that little story arc with the frog splash, that's going to make that frog splash way more exciting, and the crowd are going to be way more up for that frog splash than if I just did it just out of the blue, just like put the guy down and did it. When Foley when Undertaker threw Foley off the top of the cell, it's not like they were both just up there all of a sudden. They didn't just teleport there and then he did it. You know what I mean? It's like they told the story of why they were in that scenario, why they were in that position. I mean, masterfully. You know what I mean? And then not only that, then we also got one of, if not the craziest, most visually astounding moments in wrestling history. So you need both these things. You need both these things. But you need both of these things for things to be great. But you can get away with just the psychology and not necessarily the match stuff. And you can engage a crowd with just this. But I'm not going to encourage people to. So just be shit at wrestling. That's fine. You know what I mean?
But then also don't underestimate the awesomeness of just a sudden impact as well. You know, obviously, you got the build. Obviously, like the RKO became infamous. The Stone Cold Stunner, that could just be hit instantly, and it meant something. So again, it's assessing the moment, it's assessing the crowd, it's assessing the story, and knowing what to do, I suppose.
Yeah, but when that Stone Cold Stunner or when that RKO is hit out of nowhere, all of a sudden, how many times have we seen it attempted? How many times have we seen the setup? And also with us being fans of the company, how many times have we seen it in other matches? How much is it indelibly etched in? Do you get what I'm saying? The moment doesn't necessarily all have to come from that one individual match, particularly when it's like we're invested in characters on TV and we see them week in, week out. You know what I mean? That moment could have been spread over multiple years. Randy Orton hitting that RKO out of nowhere, and it's like all the different story signs and all the different markings that we've seen over the years on TV. Oh yeah, boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that makes sense. RKO out of nowhere. I get it. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're just a random bredder on a spot show performing in front of a crowd that not necessarily hasn't seen you before, but doesn't have the luxury of seeing you every week on TV, very different kind of set of rules. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't take for granted, obviously, that things are just going to be remembered or acknowledged or known. While I was talking about TV, just to retrace back to BlackHeart, just to shout out them, and they've just had the first episode of the weekly show start on YouTube last week. Huge for British wrestling, for a British wrestling promotion, just to try and do like a weekly episodic thing. That's awesome, man. That must be very, very cool to be around.
Yeah, it's great. I think they've done a really good job with it as well. It's really well edited. It's really kind of like snappy. I think they're only going to be sort of 20, maybe even shorter than 20 to kind of like 25-minute episodes, which obviously lends itself to like nice, quick, snappy matches, quick production, talking heads and commentary and kind of like music overlays and whatnot. But yeah, I feel like it worked really good. I'm interested and excited to see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be involved with it myself, and I don't think I'm on for the first couple of shows. I think they're kind of like leading up to me, as it were.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to it.
I'm kind of getting that old NXT vibe where not everybody has to be on every episode. You know, you could go 3 or 4 episodes without seeing somebody, and it just means it's a little bit cooler when they do pop up, and it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah. So I think they're going to be doing a tournament for like a new secondary belt. I'm pretty sure that's what the first few episodes are going to be about. So yeah, I guess there'll be like a changeover of talent. Like you get a varying talent weekly sort of thing.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Like I still said, it's nice and short. People can watch it. It's a great showcase for the talent. Obviously, I think I was waiting to see if Billy's belt had been blinged up. You know, because I heard he came across $5,000 somewhere, so he could afford to snazzy up the belt a little bit. Like a spinny belt or something.
Elizabeth Duke. Elizabeth Duke shit just hanging off all the sides. Yeah, that's Billy. That's our Bill.
So, dude, obviously, you know, I've kind of talked about, you know, the more mentoring kind of side, but dude, obviously, like you said, you're still very active, still kicking heads, stomping heads. 2024. What's the crack, man? What's the plan? Obviously you've got True Grit Rumble this Saturday. You got what you're doing at Wrestle Island, and numerous other promotions. What's the crack for this year?
Oh mate, pressure. Well, as I attested to at the beginning of the video, obviously it's not like I've taken a back seat in terms of wrestling. It's just that I used to do an awful lot of it, whereas now I'm only doing like a handful of shows a month, as it were. But it looks like I'm possibly going to be doing slightly more this year, Similarly to last year, still not like any kind of full-time schedule, as it were. I'm trying to think now. Yeah, so I'm back at BTW in Bolton. I've got a handful of dates going across, and I think we're doing some. I think we're going to be doing some like storyline stuff there, so that should be fun. I mean, BTW is a bit of a sleeper company because they sell out the shows every single time. There's always a good couple of hundred people there, and a lot of it is very storyline based. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to sort of sink your teeth into. But yeah, they're not like an internet darling type company, as it were. Yeah, we've got Wrestle Island coming up. So we're kind of doing something similar at Wrestle Island to what we've been doing at True Grit. With kind of open challenges with young up and comers. Again, not to give too much away or to pull the curtain away, but like it's all about developing some new stars to be potential future kind of upper card / main event Wrestle Island talent, which is what we're leading to. So like I say, there's some very interesting storyline stuff going on there. So I definitely advise tuning in to Wrestle Island. For the next few shows, well, not just in general, but specifically for the next few shows, we've got some cool stuff coming up. Fucking hell, man. Yeah, true. So let's specifically put over True Grit because everyone needs to get their asses down to Left Bank on Saturday because it's going to be quality. Not only have we got the Rumble, but there's some like amazing matches going on as well, like Brady Phillips and Saxon Huxley. We were just talking about him before. Putting him over how much of a great guy he is. He's also like unfucking believable in the ring and an absolute terrifying like monster. And Brady's just like, I don't think it's any kind of secret how good Brady is now. You know what I mean? Proper classic workhorse. You know what I mean? But with size and agility and athleticism and all that kind of stuff. Just a complete package in ring. So that's going to be like amazing. And then hopefully I'm going to win the Rumble. Batter El Bilzo en route, and then taking Serico's title at some point next year. That'd be nice. Right. Yeah, sorry, I'm really bad at this. Like I've got loads of cool stuff coming up, but I haven't got any notes or I haven't got my diary with me or whatever. So I'm struggling.
We'll just say
I am winging it.
To be confirmed, and we'll make a big deal out of as of when they are announced and confirmed. So it's just me fishing for spoilers, and you're not giving me any. So that's fine, it's not a problem. Right, last time we talked, I'm going to put you on the spot again this time, but this time it's film related. Last time you was on, I asked you your top 5 horror films. I want to see if it's changed.
I can't remember what it was last time, but I've got a pretty solid so Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street are kind of like I don't think they'll ever be supplanted as my 1 and 2 or joint number 1 or whatever. You know what I mean? I see a lot of films where it's like, I get a similar feeling from it. It's like, that was amazing. That's a new classic. That's a potential top 5. But I don't know. I'd be surprised if anything beats Nightmare and Halloween. Just it's like movies are very indicative of the era, regardless of what era it is. You know what I mean? For better and worse. You get what I mean? Like there's some things about modern movies that are fantastic that they couldn't have done back then, and like the progression to the point where it's like it's at a peak that we've never seen before. But there's then other things that they did way better back then that they don't do now. You know what I mean? It's always taking one thing out and putting one thing in. But I think that like that kind of bronze era of horror movies. Am I getting that right? Like kind of like late 70s to well, I guess like late 60s to mid 80s.
Yeah,
that's.
I'll call it the golden era because it was, for me. We'll just kind of sidebar it. It was when they couldn't really rely on the effects. They couldn't rely on much, so they had to rely on shadows. They had to rely on music. They had to rely. They were very good at just making you look at a screen and be like, something's going to happen, something's going to happen, something's going to happen. Bam, something happens. Things like, oh, fucker.
Tension and build and suspense and all that. And I think that like that kind of, like I say, late 70s to sort of early to mid 80s kind of period. It's that nice transition period as well, where like you say, that they couldn't do a load of stuff. It's not like the CGI, but like they're starting to be able to do things, and we're starting to be able to have a more visceral response to the actual physical things that we can see, whilst also having a reliance on tension and build and suspense and all that kind of stuff. So I just feel like again, it's all taste. I'm not saying one's better than the other, but just in terms of what speaks to me, for me, that's the perfect mix. The happy medium or whatever. So yeah, those two, and then House of the Devil, Texas Chainsaw Massacre for sure, and then probably Scream if I had to pick a fifth.
Yes.
That
was what you said last time, and I was waiting to see if Scream was still in there, because that's in my top five. Because I was just surprised, a lot of people enjoy it, but very few people appreciate it, to high standards it should be appreciated, in my opinion, kind of thing. And you're the only other person I knew that kind of did. So I was waiting to see if it was still in the top five. So
yeah, because the thing with slasher movies, they're heavily derided for kind of good reason. You know what I mean? It's like I can understand why they're seen as like it's a cheesy, stupid, like corny genre, a subgenre of horror that's incredibly predictable, and it's the same thing all the time, and blah 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 blah, and there's no characters, and I've heard the criticisms and I understand them, and I wouldn't say that they're not valid, but like if you can appreciate what's in between all that, it's fucking beautiful art. So for me, slasher movies are like Van Gogh, Chopin, fucking. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking beautiful, and like it speaks to me on a very very profound level. And Scream did amazing things that no one had ever done before. You know what I mean? It's amazing. Love it.
It basically revitalized the whole genre, if to put it bluntly. By mid-90s, it was a dead genre that came out. Boom, it's back again.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. And I did want to see whether you mentioned Terrifier as well. I would know if that would make you.
Oh yeah, it's nowhere close to like a top 10 or a top 20. Like I mean, I've seen too many fucking movies. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but no, I much prefer the first one to the second one, but I absolutely adored both of them. I think that like Damien Leone, I watched the first Terrifier when it first came out in whatever, like 2017, 18, something like that. The moment that I saw that, I was like, Damien fucking Leone, this guy is the man. He's not done a huge amount of amazing stuff outside of the Terrifier universe. The All Hallows Eve, where we first get introduced to Art the Clown, it's okay, but the last bit, it's anthology thing, like multiple stories. The last bit, which is mainly focused on Art the Clown, is fucking amazing. The rest of it's fine, but he did what's it called, Frankenstein versus the Mummy. It's very obscure, it's not as silly parody sounding as you might think it is. It kind of takes itself almost seriously, but in a quite like humorous way. It's a weird one. How did I get onto? Oh yeah, because you were talking about Terrifier. Yeah, Damien Leone. He's fucking awesome. He's a visionary. He's an absolute visionary. And again, I could see why people would slag him off and say that like it's just cheesy B movie bullshit. But again, it's like, yeah, you're not seeing. You're not seeing the big picture here.
Yeah, it is what that's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? You take something out good and you just make it better. But that's what I like about you as well, is you're the same as me in the sense of like certain directors you get the vibe for. Hopefully I'll remember this correctly, because it was you that put me on to Ty West.
Yeah, Ty's the man. Have you seen that? Have you seen it?
No, not yet. It's on my list. I haven't got around to it yet.
Great movie. Great movie. And Pearl as well. They're both so good. So good.
I just wanted to end the note on a slightly different, just to get you back down, get you out of that mentoring head. We'll talk film.
Yeah.
Dude, you expressed obviously you like the '97 wrestling. Dude, love to have you on with myself and Boris at some point if you're ever free to talk about a pay-per-view.
Hey, that'd be sick. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
we're well up for that. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. We've got Canadian Stampede coming up soon, so I don't know if I'll pen you in for that one, because that's that's the definitive show of '97 for me.
Yeah. Is that quite late in the year? You got towards the end of '97 now. Isn't that like December or something?
Back July time.
Oh, is it July? Oh, sorry, brain fart. Yeah.
Got King of the Ring next, and I'm pretty certain it's Canadian Stampede, and then it goes into like Survivor Series and stuff, doesn't it? Which is when
Yeah.
we won't talk about it. So.
Yeah. No spoilers. But yeah, no, I'm up for that. Definitely. That sounds really fun.
Sweet. Well, I'll hit you up with that one now. We'll try to obviously get dates aligned. Obviously, with Boris doing a show every month now, it's going to be a sort of smaller window to be able to do it. He's a busy man,
He's much like. Boy.
Dude, we've hit the hour mark. That's just gone by. So I will let you go, but obviously let people know where they can hit you up. You know, Wrestle Islands, your socials, just whatever you want to plug. There you go.
Whatever I want to plug. Okay, right. Well, in that case, because I've already kind of plugged Gala and Sammy Blue, so let's put some other people over, shall we? The awkward bit about this is, obviously, if I start mentioning people, I can't mention every single person. There's going to be some people like missing out that I'm going to miss out. So this is nothing personal. This is just like what's off the top of my head. But obviously, Supersonic Sammy Blue, Josh Galla, EJ Walsh over in Birkenhead. Billy O'Keefe is just an amazing talent. I'm kind of putting him separately because I feel like he's really starting to break out now. Anyway, like I'm trying to help him out as much as I possibly can, and doing as much for him as I possibly can. But I feel like it's got to that stage now where it's I think it's all going to happen for him anyway because people are starting to see the talent. But yeah, Supersonic Sammy Blue, Josh Galla, J-Ro Lewis, locally to me, absolute proper top lad. Really like small guy, but he can proper go in the ring, and I think what he really brings to the table is that he can actually talk, not just like, oh, he can cut a promo if given some script or like whatever. Like, no, he can actually talk. Like, he can work in terms of vocalizing stuff. Who the fuck else? See, I mentioned EJ, haven't I? Because EJ is like just a really good solid like heel. And what I see with EJ is almost like he's such a good solid heel that he's probably going to be one of those people that's more remembered as being a babyface at the end of his career. Like, not to make too like big parallels or whatever, but like a Dusty Rhodes, you know what I mean, or like a Mick Foley maybe, you know what I mean. It's got that kind of everyman thing. He's definitely comes across like a bruiser heel, but there's something everyman about him that I think will
people will be attracted to.
Yeah, translate to a babyface character. I've already mentioned TC Thorne, who's like, he's very new and he's very green and he's very young, but like he's got this believableness to him, which I really appreciate. So I really want to push him because he's like a top lad as well. For fuck's sake, Max Brooker. Let me put over Max Brooker because he's an absolute star. Not only is he great in the ring, but he's one of those people. He's just someone you want to have around at your shows because he's such a hard-working, helpful dude, and he's like a wizard when it comes to ring setups and like any issues you have with the ring. It's like he's fucking on it straight away. We'll leave it there because I'm struggling. Like, there's a million other people that I could mention and just know that I love you all. So that's what I want to plug.
I try to do like appreciation posts like on the socials, and I'll reel off like 10 people. Then I'm like, oh shit, I didn't mention X, Y, and Z, and I feel like a twat. Don't. Yeah, so it's just first 10 names that popped into your head, Bosh. That's it. It'll be 10 different people next time. I think everybody's awesome. You're all great, and yeah, that's the kind of thing. So obviously, we'll call it Twitter because we'll keep it retro. People want to follow you on Twitter. What's the handle?
At Real Sean Only, same on Twitter and on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook by my real name, Pete Higginson, if you really want. And yeah, that's about it. I'm not much of a social media dude, but I do post here and there. So
that's it. It's just I'd probably also for the wrestling side of things, Twitter would be the place just to, if you're on a show, obviously people will probably see you on the poster. If you do post on there, any shows coming up, it's just an easy way for people to know where you are.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's it. Obviously, thank you for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe, comment, share, tell your mates, get eyes on the prize, see what's going on. If you're in Yorkshire and you don't have a ticket for True Grit, please go get one. It's going to be an awesome show. Still 4 people to be announced. Can't even count. 4 people to be announced for the Rumble. Yeah, thank you for watching, and we will see you soon. Mr. Only, it's been an absolute pleasure, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us, man. Really appreciate it. It's been real.
Not a problem. I'll speak to you all soon. And yeah, ciao for now. Bye.
Toodles.